Hey, okay, so who's Michael Lush? Let me tell you real quick. Michael Lush is the founder and CEO of Lush Enterprises, Replace Your Mortgage University, an education firm specializing in real world tactical financial strategies that teach thousands of Americans how to get ahead and stay ahead. So, here's some of Michael's clients. He helps people like executive pastors, CEOs of major corporations, bank executives, mortgage executives, best selling authors, and most of all, amazing blue collar Americans across the country. Before devoting his efforts to full time to Replace Your University, Michael is a 17-year veteran of the mortgage industry, serving at capacities from loan officer to senior executive. When he first learned that a mortgage is, quote, financial crack to middle America. Woo! We're going to have to talk about that one, Michael.
Yeah.
He's authored the best-selling book, Replace Your Mortgage, How to Pay Off Your Home in 5 to 7 years on Your Current Income. And he's also a contributing author to Forbes, New York Weekly, and Market Daily, to name a few. He's a devoted husband and father to 5 amazing boys, where he instills a life focus on faith, family, finances, and freedom. When not in front of the camera, Michael can be found on the family farm, tending to his livestock and spending quality time as a hunter with his boys. Michael, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it, Joe. It's been a good hunting season, as a matter of fact.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. 2023, we're here. And as we record this, we're at the beginning of 2023. And so many people have big financial goals, everything from paying off debt to making more money to all kinds of different things, just getting everything structured appropriately. And you've been studying this topic for years. What made you get so invested into like the financial side of the game as opposed to like just mortgages?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, that's an easy answer. I mean, you had talked about it. I had a mentor that basically said that what I was doling out was financial crack to middle America. And he basically called me the dope dealer. And,
Ooh.
that didn't feel well. I thought I was doing, God's work and living my life's purpose by offering mortgages. I was good at what I was doing. I was, coaching other loan officers and running branches. And so I was responsible for thousands of mortgages, across the country. And
Mm-hmm.
for him to basically call me the dope dealer, he's like, yeah, that's what you've peddled really all these years is dope. It's financial crack to middle America. And the reason why he says middle America, the poor can't afford it. So think about it. When you're going to get a mortgage, the poor can't qualify for a mortgage. And then quite frankly, here's the side that I really started focusing on is the rich don't use them. This guy was a hedge fund manager, very wealthy at the time, still is, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I wanted to be in his sphere of influence. And if this guy, who's obviously, we tend to equate people with lots of money with high intelligence, which tends to be the case, right? Because why are people with high
Yeah.
net worth have high intelligence? They utilize things like this, a life hack. They
Mm-hmm.
have mentors and coaches. Coaches have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did. He had studied this himself by learning it from someone else. And again, this isn't a technique that I have created. This is something that is hundreds of years old.
Mm-hmm.
This is tested and proven method of what the wealthy do when they finance real estate. And essentially, as we tell me, that rich people don't use mortgages. They still use other people's money. I assumed, well, you're rich, you're going to pay cash for everything. He said, absolutely not. We still use other people's money, but it's the type of debt that we use, the debt tool that we use that's entirely different than what you've been peddling. But it's not just the tool, it's the strategy behind the tool of what we're using to make us far more efficient. And that's when I dove in and started studying
Mm-hmm.
mortgages and the modern day mortgage. And I call it the modern day mortgage. What
For
we,
one side, like I already feel like I have a lot to learn, so this is
yeah,
good. But let me just ask you this real quick: when he meant crack, like in what way is it like crack to the middle class? How does it harm them?
one, it keeps you addicted to it, right? So
Mm.
it's something that you consume and you feel like you never get off of. So think about it as an average American. I mean, how long have you had your mortgage? How long have you had your home that has not been paid off? I mean, it's something it's this never. It seems like this never-ending cycle that you're addicted to, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden rates drop. Then what do? You refinance to a lower rate, but you started the amortization schedule all over again. So the average American doesn't pay one home off in 30 years, but the average Australian pays 2 homes off in 14 years. There's a massive difference for that.
Ooh. And this is a function of the financial crack peddling that's going on.
It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about the mortgage. Although I don't want to go too deep in the mortgage, but yeah, now you got me curious. So yeah.
Yeah. So the mortgage, the modern day mortgage was created after 1913. 1913 was the institution of the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor is it a reserve. But the Federal Reserve has one important function for banks.
Did you all catch that? He's like, it's the Federal Reserve, but it's not federal and it's not a reserve. That's amazing. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
A lot of people don't realize that. But it's the backstop of banks. And what it does is it allows banks to execute what's called fractional reserve lending. Mm-hmm. Fractional reserve lending means that for every dollar you put in a bank account, they have 10 to lend out. So after that powerful magic trick, so Joe, let's say I give you $1, snap your fingers, and it becomes a $10 bill. Your next question out of me is, hey, can I get some more dollars? Right?
Absolutely.
That's what the banks did. After they've got the backstop of the Federal Reserve and now this new magic trick called the fractional reserve lending, they said, how can we get more Americans to deposit money in our checking and savings accounts, right? Our operating accounts. So what they did
By the way, I use checking and savings accounts. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I won't leave you with this, but I'll tease you with this.
Okay.
The more you have in a checking and savings account, the more of a liability you have. So checking and savings accounts are actually liabilities. They are not assets. They're liquid, but they're not assets.
Tell me more. I'm ready.
We can get back to that here in a second.
Okay.
With a mortgage, money can, before 1913, money could move in and out freely 24/7. So it was almost like a line of credit, right? So banks got together and said, we need to separate Americans from their cash. And they made a mortgage a closed-end installment loan, just like a lot of other products that soon followed: car loans, student loans, personal loans, right? It became a debt tool for them to separate you from your cash. So now people would not deposit all of their income to a mortgage. They would have to segregate their income, meaning money, some went towards the mortgage and some went where? Into the welcoming hands of the banks, where you put it in a checking and savings account at a very nominal interest rate while we have really high inflation and high interest rates. So we never thought about it. We walk in the front door of a bank, look to the right, and it says, deposit your money here at 0.24%. We're like, oh, that seems like a good deal compared to the other bank. We give it to them, and we look to the left, and then their loan officers over there. It's like, hey, come get a loan from us at 6%. We never stopped to think, I just gave my money to that person who walked it over to that person and he loaned it back to me at 6%. It's a negative 3,600% rate of return. I mean, how many of us would be willing to sign up for a contract that guarantees we lose 3,600%? 99% of Americans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do other people do? Because this is just like, for most of us, we've never even thought about, it's like, yeah, I put my money in a bank. Yeah. By the way, you worked at a bank, didn't you?
I did. And I'll be honest with you, I still have some influence in some other banks as well. Some, I wouldn't call it financial control, but some decision-making in some banks. But my role in some of these banks is really to create consumer and bank-friendly equity products so that people can consume them, that banks can attract people. There is a way. This is a momentum that people are starting to become more aware of, that hold up. We don't have as much control over our financial situation as we thought we did. And now banks are starting to get out in front of it and say, well, we need to be first to market and create these equity products. So that's what I do, is I help some of these banks create equity products that are both consumer friendly and bank friendly. It has to be bank friendly, or else they're not going to offer it. Let's just be honest with each other.
So when banks have their meetings and they talk about how to be successful, you mentioned there's one key performance indicator that they look at every time. What are they looking for?
The focus is core deposits. We need more depositors, because the more you deposit in there, if you deposit $1, they have 10. If you deposit $100, they have 1,000. You deposit 100,000, they have 1,000,000. So deposits are vitally important to banks. So that's, every meeting is consumed by, how do we grow core deposits? And guess what the number one tool is? Mortgage, death pledge.
Wow. Okay. So this is what they're, and there's nothing illegal or unethical about this. It's just the nature of the way that the system currently works. But you're saying that this mentor from the past, and I guess you still know him now, it's like they don't operate that way. They operate outside of the system. They
do. They operate completely outside of the system. It's really an entire system. It's not one tool that they do. It's a complete strategy. That's really the cycle of how they can take $1 and it make money over here, and that same dollar's also making money over here. Mirroring. right? So
Yeah.
think about it. Let's say you have $10,000 in a bank account, but it's in the bank account. Let's say it was actually earning decent interest, right? And you wanted to keep it in there and keep it liquid. Wouldn't it be cool for that 10,000 to still be making money elsewhere as well without taking it out and still be liquid?
Yes.
That's what they've done. So they've really created a system that is the antithesis of a mortgage, right? So the same people that created the modern day mortgage to keep us average folks enslaved in debt, they have fought against, right? They're utilizing something different. It's almost like a politician that creates laws but they exempt themselves from those specific laws, right? So
never.
They utilize simple interest open-end lines of credit, because what that does, it's a more efficient way of paying off debt. So instead of having a debt that is installment loan, compounded interest, very similar to a mortgage, where it's you closed in, money can go in, but it can't come out freely. They want to be able to utilize the full power of their cash flow. So that's where a line of credit comes in. So they put money into the line of credit. It massively reduces the balance, but it doesn't eliminate their liquidity. So should they ever need access to those dollars 24/7, boom, like that online, they've got access to those dollars. So, but it also computes interest entirely different than a mortgage does as well. Again, it's simple interest. So as the balance decreases, your interest the very next day is recasted and recalculated for less interest. So that is one of the primary debt tools that they're using in the overall financial system that they've created.
Okay. So this is you're talking about mirroring money, segmentation of money. These are all like super huge concepts, but at the end of the day, there are vehicles that your money can sit in instead of a checking or savings account. And by sitting in these vehicles, they can, one, make higher interest inside of the vehicle, two, be utilized in other places at the same time so that you're making interest two ways on your money.
Yeah, sometimes three ways.
How many of you think you'd pay off your debts a lot faster if all of a sudden your money was making money everywhere instead of costing you money everywhere? That's amazing.
Yeah, and I know this may seem high level, and it may seem like this is a bit elitist. Like, I've got to be a high income earner. I've got to have millions of dollars in the bank. These tools are freely accessible to almost everyone. And when I say almost, obviously, if you don't have cash flow positivity where you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's going to be really difficult to, perform on this strategy. But if you do have a margin between what you're making and what you're spending, there are tools out there that this isn't exclusive to just the rich.
Yeah.
The only thing that's exclusive is the knowledge.
So when wealthy people who've been using this for years, the Kennedys and the Rothschilds and all these others who are using vehicles like this, it doesn't just stop at, okay, my money sits in a different kind of account. There's a whole system that's put together on top of it. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, one, you don't want your money sitting. So that's something else that the average American does is we try to store money in a savings account, right? And I just told you what the national average is on a savings account, 0.24%. You don't want money to sit. You want money constantly active. You need to wake up the sleeping money. So not only do you want that money to pay off debt, but you also want that money to grow. And contrary to popular belief, you can actually do both at the exact same time. You can grow that nest egg while that money is also suppressing principal and reducing the balance and overall interest that you pay on your debt. Now, some people also leverage the debt, because if you're paying really low interest on the debt and you want to expand your net worth, that's a great tool as well. That's what banks do. What are bankers doing? When you open up a checking account, they give you money. Right. That is not an asset to the bank yet, right? So we have to think like a bank. It's actually a liability, because when you give $1 to the bank in the form of a deposit in a checking account, what is the contract? What is the agreement? They have to give you that dollar back plus interest, right? So that's a liability to the bank. So how does the bank turn that liability into an asset? Is by lending it out to someone else at 5, 6, 7%. Right. Why can't we do the same thing? There are no laws that prevent us from doing the exact same thing. And there are quite a few financial tools that allow us to become our own bank and create our own economy.
All right. Walk me through it. You got me. Okay. So how do if you were to walk me through the system and you're like coaching me through it, where do I begin?
Number one, and we call this our bulletproof financial system, right? And so this is the path to kind of create your own economy. And the first step is we've got to use our buried treasure detection system. So a lot of people don't realize you have a treasure chest. in your home, probably in your backyard, that you didn't even realize that you had. So we're going to help you discover where it is, how to access it efficiently, and how to use it and leverage it. So that's step number one. Number two is you need to
This is
replace.
like the best way to start 2023. You're like, you have a bunch of money that you don't even realize you have access
Yes.
to, and it's yours.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So first you find it.
A lot of people are feeling like they might be a victim of the current economy. You know, real estate prices are going through the roof, and it's like, okay, well, how can I, exit this home and get into another home? Keep in mind, there are lots of benefits of this current economic system, which is the value of your home has massively increased. So how do you gain access to all of that capital and that equity? We'll show you how to do that. Number two is you need to replace your cash flow system. So you need to think about, if I'm putting money into a checking account and a savings account, and Michael just told me that it's a liability, then I don't want to put any more in there. I need to put my money, wake it up. Instead of it sleeping over there at 0.24% while inflation is at 8%, I need to wake that money up, and I need to replace my cash flow system. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to show you how to remain liquid should you need access to those funds 24/7 for gas, groceries, utilities, emergencies, or opportunities, because we don't all have a scarcity mindset. Some of us have an abundance mindset, right? So how can we stay liquid, but utilize our cash flow as a weapon for not only creating wealth, but also eliminating debt? Number three is our debt ninja system. So we're going to talk about the different financial tools that are available to you, not just to the elite and exclusive. You don't have to be rich to gain access to these. What are the tools that we can use to eliminate debt the most efficient way? Number four is the asset acquisition method. So I talked about that earlier. Some people want to think like a bank and have an abundance mindset and say, okay, well, if I have access to capital at this price, well, what if I were to leverage it to get this in return? That's called arbitrage. That's exactly what banks do. So we have modules and courses available that show you what is the asset acquisition method, how to successfully and efficiently utilize these strategies to grow your net worth by leveraging some of these debt tools. And then number five is our bulletproof financial system. So how can we protect all of that from inflation, from high interest rates, from potential lawsuits, things of that nature? So how can we create this system and now put a bulletproof shield around it so that all these external factors don't really affect it? So, if you've got a 401k, you've got an IRA, any type of retirement account that's affected by the market, how are you feeling over 2022? You're probably not feeling too good. You're like, holy crap, I took a 40% hit or 30% hit. This, zero hits. It will forever compound interest, regardless of what the market does. That's bulletproof.
This is interesting because I think if I were to talk to the average American today, or even the above average American, the mindset is something like, put your head down and work hard.
Yeah.
Chunk some cash away, right? So that you got some kind of savings in case of any kind of emergency. And then, and then use the debt snowball to gradually pay off your things. And it's like, that's about as sophisticated as, again, the above average American thinks about. And it seems to me, as you're talking, you're talking fast, and I can tell your stuff. It seems to me that there are things that we could do. There are systems that are already proven that literally would just require a change of the way that we think about it that could double, triple, quadruple the speed at which everything's happened in our lives. But instead, that lack of knowledge has most of America just working away, just every day. I'm going back to work, and they're counting every day, and they're like, okay, if I do some overtime this week, by the end of this week, I'll be able to chunk away another $275, and I'm going to put that over here in this savings account, and I'm going to file and all that hard work you're telling me with a different system would yield exponentially more, right?
Yes.
And allow people to live their lives without pinching every penny and being worried about money all the time.
And it's less scary too, Joe. So think about it. We know who you're kind of talking about with the debt snowball system. I call it a financial entertainer instead of a financial guru. But that is a very scary way to live, to say that every dollar is spoken for towards debt and it's trapped Because think about it, in that system, you're putting money towards debt tools that are already trapped. So it requires a lot of discipline, which is why less than 2% of Americans actually do it, right? Because you're not liquid. What if something happens? Okay. So we could talk about the flip side of the coin, but what if something happens? Transmission goes out, medical bills, things of that nature. That's a pretty scary concept to be like, okay, for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm eating rice or beans and I've got to get at it and get after it, like with gazelle mentality, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm going to go get a pizza delivery job to make more cash. That's the advice.
Not take vacations. You mentioned earlier, I'm a father of 5 boys and a beautiful wife. So for 5 years, I'm just going to focus on this debt and miss out on some of those moments and memories with them and not really live life. And then all of a sudden I walk across the street and I get hit by a bus. Sorry, not happening. There is a far more efficient way to do it, that you can still have that same mindset, gazelle-like mentality, but utilize a different system and strategy that remains liquid. So it gives you the confidence that, hey, if something does happen, I'm okay. I'm liquid. I can take care of those moments more so than I could have on the other one should something arise. But again, that's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is when you have access to capital, you realize that opportunities are abundant. When you don't have access to capital, you wouldn't spot an opportunity if it smacks you in the face. But again, when you have capital, you can spot opportunities.
Well, it's hard because you get scared, right? It's like you if you don't have access to a lot and you need everything coming in to cover the debts that are coming in to get to the thing that you're trying to get to, it creates this like I gotta hold on to every dollar, right? It's like can't pry it from my hands, right? Trying to get it out, right? And there's this fear because it's like I have access to this limited capacity of money versus when you use a different system, suddenly you have access to far more capital. And so that thing, talk to me about what holds people back from doing a system like this. Why don't they do it? I mean, if it's proven, if lots of millionaires throughout the last 100 years have used it and been using it, what holds people back?
Oh, it's fear. It's you have to unlearn everything that you've known about money and how to pay off debt and how to grow wealth. You really have to unlearn it. So even financial planners, right? I think you have another client that was a financial planner for some odd years, and he realized this is not the true way to grow wealth. And, he was working for a large name company that I don't know if we can name, but I'll do it anyways, Edward Jones. And like they were teaching their financial planners that this is how you plan for people. And really what it was about was kind of pushing products that made big commissions for the financial planners and the financial planning firm. So you really have to unlearn, and really you have to investigate who's your sphere of influence. Where am I getting my knowledge from? Because I may be getting bad information. And maybe in order to level up, I need to start talking about people that are at other levels as opposed to the level I'm in.
Can I just jump in on that? Because I have some family members that I love dearly. They've been such great people. They make such a big difference in the world. They're leaders and pastors, and they've just devoted their lives to helping people. And they're at that stage now where they're trying to retire. And for the last 5 years, they'll go to their financial planner and be like, what do I do? And their financial planner keeps giving them the same advice. They've got them in these same types of stocks and this whole thing. And it's a whole kind of like commercialized, normal, what you would think of with a financial planner and exactly the financial products that they sell. And because of that, they keep not being able to retire. And so finally I asked them, I'm like, who is this person that is like literally got your life in handcuffs right now? Like, how much do they make a year? And so they found out, and the person makes $60,000 a year. Now, no hate against anybody who makes $60,000 a year. Right. And I'm like, why are you allowing the thought patterns and beliefs of someone who makes $60,000 a year to govern your life on how you can have enough money to retire? Why not go to the people who are doing it way up here? And I think there's like this sort of fear, like, well, they can do that because they have so much money, when in reality, they have so much money because they did that, right?
Yep. Yeah. Again, we have to question the products that we consume. So I can speak intelligently about the banking and mortgage industry, more so than I can the financial planning industry. But when it comes to a mortgage, for 17 years, and keep in mind, it provided for my family, it put food on the table. In some years, it was massive, right? It was really good income. Mortgages pay out really high commissions, okay, relative to other debt tools like lines of credit that we talk about. In fact, most lines of credit, guess what they pay, Joe? $0 to the banker. The banker gets paid a salary to manage the bank, open up checking accounts, savings accounts, open up lines of credit. Every now and then they'll do a mortgage. They don't get a commission for the lines of credits, right? Mortgages pay out huge commissions. I'll give you an example. Let's say I did a $300,000 mortgage. Yep. I could make anywhere from $4,500 to $6,000 for that one transaction. However, if I open up a line of credit for $300,000, guess what it pays? $0. So think about it as a consumer. Where do commissions come from? Commissions come from big profits. Where do big profits come from? Big profits come from consumers overspending. So why do I want to consume a product that has big profits and commissions? Because I overspent versus you consuming a product that has no commissions because it's the most efficient for me and my family.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad you're getting this message out. I'm glad that more people are starting to hear it, because we're working far too hard in a system, right? It reminds me of the movie The Matrix a little bit, right? Which is overused, but nevertheless, we're in a sort of matrix of belief about, let's call it a paradigm of how to think about our financial growth and our financial goals. And all of those thoughts and goals are based on assumptions that exist only inside of this pre-created structure of the banking system. And in reality, in 2023, like never before, people have the ability to create their own economy. What else holds people back?
Yeah, again, fear. So fear was number one, knowledge number two, right? Access to that knowledge. And here's the thing is, with today's technology and with YouTube and Google and Facebook and all of that, we have access to knowledge. It's just, what are we pouring into ourselves? What are we pouring into our brains? Are we sitting down at night watching Netflix and some, episodes of something else? Or are we reading books or listening to books or consuming? And it doesn't have to be audio books or books. I mean, you go on YouTube and I have hundreds of videos on YouTube where I'm giving away a lot of information that we'll talk about at the event for 5 days. What are you doing with your time? Are you pouring into yourself as opposed to consuming what, again, makes other families money, right? Instead of making yourself money. So start investing in yourself. That's the big thing, is people for the first time have never invested in themselves. But for those folks that have ever invested in themselves for one time, realize what the rate of return are, and they continue to come back. I mean, Joe, you've got a coach. I've got coaches. Coaches have coaches. Yes. Why do we do it? Because we realize that investing in ourselves yields the highest rate of return.
100%. All right. How can people learn more about the whole system and go deeper?
Yeah, go to Create Your Economy Live. So again, it's Create Your Own Economy Live. I got the domain on createyourown.economylive.com. Mm-hmm. Now, what we've done is, we did this back in May, where we had a live event, physical event in Snowbird, Utah, outside of Salt Lake City. It was a nice ski resort, massive resort. So everybody flies in. As a company, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to put on this event and catering and all that. But as the participant, you're spending thousands of dollars for lodging, for airfare, plus your time. I mean, heck, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. It took me 5.5 hours just to get to Salt Lake City. And that's just one way, right? Not to the airport. Then from the airport, I've got to get a shuttle to go to the hotel, etc. It costs thousands of dollars for the average person to attend this event. We still had, several hundred people there. I don't want to do that again. This is something that I want to have more impact than just having a couple hundred people that I can present to. Yeah. So instead of you having to spend thousands of dollars to go somewhere physically to attend an event, this is a virtual event where for 1 hour each day for 5 days, I'm going to go over these 5 points, right? The path to create your own economy. So for an hour each day, I'm going to go over some of the topics. And then after that hour, I'm going to spend another hour doing a free Q&A, right? And it's going to be 5 days starting on January 9th. And instead of it costing thousands of dollars, it's $97 to show up to this virtual event that you can do from your living room.
Cool. So 5 days, 1 hour a day, plus an hour per day of Q&A. And then like, is this like a typical online training where
No,
okay, tell me more.
no, we've never done this. I mean, we're
Okay.
going to spill so many nuggets and so much value. You couldn't scour YouTube to uncover some of the things that we're going to talk about in this 5 days. Even if you did, who wants to spend 35 hours on YouTube trying to figure out some of these nuggets that we're going to talk about when you could get it in 1 hour? Again, we
Yep.
need to think differently and more efficiently, and this is a life hack. So it's going to be tremendously different than anything we've ever done before.
Well, I love how you're going through the whole system here in a week. I think 2023, like if you have any sort of financial goals and you're living under the existing system, you need to be at this event. Each day, at the end of each day, you were explaining to me earlier too, it's like there'll be homework, right? Now,
Yeah.
I know that doesn't sound exciting. You're probably like, well, I didn't want to do any homework. Last time I did homework, I didn't like that so much. But this is the kind of homework that makes you cash.
Yeah.
And so
We're
that's
not
much
talking about
better
writing a
homework.
case study type homework. We're talking about investigating your own family
Yes.
finances. Should
Yes.
be somewhat exciting, maybe sometimes disappointing, but nonetheless, it's things that have to be done.
Yeah. Most of America has spent too long being afraid to look in the mirror to see what's really happening. And when
Mhm.
you come to this event, I think you're going to experience a look in the mirror that's going to get you clear. And it may be a little scary at first, but then when you learn the system and how the system works so that it can accelerate your pace out of wherever you currently are and
Yep.
into new levels of abundance and wealth, like that is going to be very exciting for you. And so go to createyourown.economy.live.com. Get your ticket. It's starting in just a few days. And so you want to get your ticket now. And then again, if you run into any problems, we're going to have Michael there. I'm going to be emceeing the event to help out, and we can't wait to see you there. Michael, last words about the event and just getting their finances together in 2023.
Yeah, you could be one of two people. I look back in 2008 when I was having financial hardships, and anytime I wanted to look at my bank account and go onto the app, I always had this like, oh, please say a number higher than what I'm thinking. Please say it. And I look at it like, oh man, you could either be that person or you could fast forward and you could be the person that's like excited to look at it, like knowing that it's growing and knowing that you've got something that you're proud of in there. And again, I know I talked about bank accounts being, liabilities and things of nature. So whether it's some of the debt tools that we're talking about, you get it. Just, change the example. But you can be one of those two people. The latter are going to be the people that show up to this event. The former are probably going to be the people that don't invest in themselves and don't invest in their families, unfortunately. And I can't help you if you're not willing to help yourself.
The average person that you've helped over the last several years with this, can you just tell us what the results look like for them by implementing the system?
Just on one financial system that we teach, we save the average person $34,000 a year. So over 5 years, it's $176,000. This is guaranteed stuff, right? We're not talking about hypothetical stuff. This is the average client of ours. Just on one financial system, we save them $176,000 in what would be otherwise interest payments to their debts, right? And that's over 5 years. So if you average that out, it's $34,000 a year. And that's just on one financial system. That's not even talking about how to grow it and how to protect it and how to compound it.
Yep, this is the best financial decision you can make here at the beginning of 2023. So go to createyourown.economy.live.com. Looking forward to getting into the deep waters with you and getting all the nuggets out and mining everything we can out to help everyone here, Michael. So we'll see you all at createyourown.economy.live.com. Thanks so much.
Take care. God bless.
Bye.